Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. Thank you all for being with us. Several months back, we had a guest by the name of Vanessa Miller from Warren County on the show. She spoke about the Isha Foundation that has a community in McMinnville, Tennessee. Isha was founded in India in 1992 by Jagi, and I'm sure I'm going to mess this up, Bangladesh, also known as Sadhguru. Vanessa believes Isha is a cult and that they are abusing their state and federal nonprofit status. She claims that in 2023, only 10% of the profit went to the nonprofit mission. There have also been reports of sexual abuse and profiling of wealthy Indian women. Suicides have been reported in the community as well. Tonight, Vanessa joins us again for an update that includes concerning real estate deals and even possible elder abuse. This group has been in Tennessee for about 20 years now. What does the state and local government know about them? Are they doing anything about it? Vanessa will join us in just a minute to discuss the situation, but first it's time for the Informer Report. You may have read a Trump post over the weekend on social media. He posts quite a bit, and I want to read this one off to you, and it's addressed to the blue city mayors from Donald Trump. I have instructed Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem that under no circumstances are we going to participate in various poorly run Democrat cities with regard to their protest and or riots unless and until they ask us for help. Now, let me just interject right here. That's the way it's actually supposed to be in terms of if you're looking at the Insurrection Act. In most cases, the state has to ask for your help or be in a situation where it's not possible to convene a legislature if you look according to the Constitution. But there are legitimate reasons, ways that he can intervene. We'll hit that in just a second. We will, however, guard, and very powerfully so, any and all federal buildings that are being attacked by these highly paid lunatics, agitators, and insurrectionists. And yes, that's a legitimate use. If he were to enact the Insurrection Act, it is legitimate to call the Insurrection Act to protect federal property, federal officers, and to enforce legitimate federal law. Please be aware that I have instructed ICE and or Border Patrol to be very forceful in its protection of federal government property. There will be no spitting in the faces of our officers. There will be no punching or kicking the headlights out of our cars, and there will be no rock or brick throwing at our vehicles or at our Patriot Warriors. If there is, those people will suffer an equal or more consequence. In the meantime, by copy of this statement, I am informing local governments, as I did in Los Angeles when they were riding at the end of the Biden term, that you must protect your own state and local property. In addition, it is your obligation to also protect our federal property, buildings, parks, and everything else. We are there to protect federal property only as a backup in that it is local and state responsibility to do so. Last night in Eugene, Oregon, these criminals broke into a federal building and did great damage, also scaring and harassing the hardworking employees. Local police did nothing in order to stop it. We will not let that happen anymore. If local governments are unable to handle the insurrectionists, agitators, and anarchists, we will immediately go to the location where such help is requested and take care of the situation very easily and methodically, just as we did in the Los Angeles riots a year ago, where the police chief said that we couldn't have done it without the help of the federal government. Therefore, to all complaining local governments, governors and mayors, let us know when you are ready and we will be there. But before we do so, you must use the word please. Remember that I stated in the strongest of language to beware. ICE, Border Patrol, or if necessary, our military will be extremely powerful and tough in the protection of our federal property. We will not allow our courthouses, federal buildings, or anything else under our protection to be damaged in any way, shape, or form. I was elected on a policy of border control, which has now been perfected, national security, and law and order. That's what America wants, and that's what America is getting. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So just a couple of comments. As I said, when you're talking about the Insurrection Act, when you're talking about constitutionally intervening in the states and other cities, normally the help has to be asked for. But as I said, he can call them up to protect federal property, protect federal officers, or to enforce federal law. And the locals, you know, the Supreme Court has recognized, and this has to do with state sovereignty, and we do not want to do away with state sovereignty by any means, that states do not have to help enforce even a legitimate federal law. They don't have to help enforce. They don't have to use their resources. Let's put it that way. But they should, in fact, for instance, the situation in Minnesota, it's obvious to me that the governor and the mayor and all these other people are involved with that. They have coordinated that. They are part of the problem, and they are helping interfere with enforcement, legitimate enforcement of federal law. And that shouldn't be the case. And at a minimum, if your local and state authorities are not going to help, they should still arrest the people who are committing felonies against federal officers and who are interfering with the legitimate work of ICE and other federal entities. So just think about that a little bit. You know, what we can't do, we cannot pull out. We cannot just let, you know, our immigration laws not be enforced. You know, you're not a country without borders. Well, we've got pretty much a country's worth of people that the Biden administration let in here from all parts of the world. We cannot afford not to enforce that. And of course, we know that this whole thing is a communist uprising. That's what it is. And we have to deal with it. So I hope that he doesn't back down. I will say this. I would like to see in our red states even more of the illegals removed. From what I've heard, the numbers have not been that high, but many of them may have self-deported. I don't know how many took the money and ran. You know, they did offer to some of them, hey, we'll pay you if you leave. So, but I would like to see them get rid of more of them in our red states. So we got to do something with Minnesota. There is definitely a problem there. Trump's praise of Marsha Blackburn was taken as an endorsement by some this weekend. Now, he didn't come out, like I say, and endorse her. He just talked about how great she was, and he tried to talk her out of running for governor. And, you know, he said that, you know, we're lucky to have her run for governor and all this stuff. Well, you know, I really wish Trump would mind his own business when it comes to our elections. Let's not forget, he flat out endorsed Bill Lee in Bill Lee's second term, and that kept anybody from getting in the race. But Marsha is a problem, and I don't know if even Trump's semi-endorsement, if you want to call that, will help her. And no, she's not been great for Tennessee. Trump may have forgiven her for stabbing him in the back in January 6, 2021, but many in Tennessee have not. Let's talk about Marsha and the refugees real quick. Most in Tennessee want illegal aliens deported, and we certainly don't want to take in refugees either. In fact, just a few years ago, our legislature sued the federal government over the cost shift of illegal refugees to our state. So we pay twice for refugees, once at the federal level, then at the state level. Oh, and by the way, they qualify for most welfare programs soon after they get here. But apparently Marsha Blackburn thought it was a good idea to bring more here. Now, this is a story from dailyrollcall.com, great site, very informative site, dailyrollcall.com. And now it's not recent. It is December 2019, okay? But how are we going to evaluate Marsha but by her past record? I'm going to read a good chunk of this article, but I encourage you to go to the site and read all of it for yourself. Her bill at the time mandated a fast track for Syrians, Iraqis, and Kurds who claimed they were in some way connected, however loosely or remotely, to America's fight against ISIS. The bill's language in this regard is very broadly written. Broadly written bills are not good. No cap is put on the numbers to be admitted as refugees, nor does this priority group of refugees count towards President Trump's 2020 cap, because remember, this is an old article, of 18,000 refugees. Vetting for this particular pool of potential U.S. entrants is vague at best. After the 2015 jihad in Paris, when a Syrian passport carried by one of the jihadis was discovered, some politicians, including Blackburn, expressed concern about importing Syrians. At the time, it was discovered that there was a robust black market for fake Syrian passports. And who forget that 2 months before the Paris Jihad, Obama promised to import at least 10,000 Syrian refugees. It seems Marcia has a very short memory. She and 5 other Republicans and 12 of the most radical Senate Democrats co-sponsored this legislation, Senate Bill 2641. It was supposed to have been heard December 11, 2019, in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The reality on the ground in Tennessee, as opposed to the DC bubble, is that Iraqi Kurds established a foothold in Nashville, complements a federal contractor, the Catholic Charities. With the influx provided by secondary migration, Nashville now has the largest Sunni Muslim Kurdish community in the U.S. By their own count, they put their numbers at approximately 15,000, and this was 7 years ago now. Well, you know what gets people mad, Marcia, is why we actually feel betrayed by this. The fact that Kurdish refugees led the fight against an important material support anti-terrorism bill in our state legislature. And there was a Kurdish refugee who that same year was the first to get the Hamas front group CARE involved in Tennessee state politics. It was a Kurdish refugee who led organizing the Tennessee American Muslim Advisory Council, AMAC, which is similar to CARE, and decided to collaborate with some of the country's most vocal Jew-hating anti-Semites like Linda Sarsour. They're anti-American, they're anti-Jewish, they're anti-everything about this country. Remember that. Still more troubling is the part of Marcia's bill which specifically permits someone to come to the U.S. even if they were in any way connected to the Syrian Democratic Forces. After the Paris Jihad, Marcia was quick to say no to importing Syrians to the U.S. and mentioned the problem with vetting and falsified documents. So she knew it was an issue. She knew this already. Leaving all this behind in the House, now Senator Blackburn is co-sponsoring a bill that pushes refugee resettlement. Does that mean that Marcia wants Governor Lee to consent to refugee resettlement for the state? Does Marcia realize that if the governor says yes, and remember, Marcia's running for governor now, the Tennessee lawsuit challenging the federal program goes away. The same lawsuit she claimed to support in her statement on the House floor. And what about those measly little security type issues? Did Marcia leave those concerns behind because she graduated to the Senate? Is she aware of the vetting and other problems we've had with Iraqis already admitted to the U.S.? DailyRollCall.com has more information on this. I encourage you to go to the site. Marcia seems to be schizophrenic on the issue of refugees. We need a governor that will look out for our citizens, not import potential terrorists. And that wraps up this installment of the Informer Report. By the way, I think the best option for governor would be Monty Fritz, but I think you already knew that if you watched this show more than a day or two. If you have a news story that you want to alert us to, be sure to send us an email at tninformer.tv@gmail.com. Now, a word from our sponsor, LifeWave, a unique product that uses light reflection to activate the body's own natural energy, supporting healing, improving performance, and combating aging without drugs or stimulants. Check it out, and we'll be right back.
The energy of life itself. Since the beginning of time, light has sustained us, fueled our growth, and shaped the world. Even Einstein recognized that everything we are is made of light. But what if we could harness the light within us? Not just to live, but to renew, restore, and rejuvenate. Introducing LifeWave X39, the first product in the world that activates stem cells using our body's own light. Backed by clinical research, multiple patents, and over 10 years of stem cell research, a revolutionary wearable light technology that unlocks the power of activating our own stem cells with a single, safe, affordable, non-transdermal patch that puts you back in control of how you look, feel, and perform. Unlike drugs or chemicals, X39 works naturally, awakening your body's ability to heal and thrive. It's time to unlock your full potential, restore your vitality, and embrace a healthier, more vibrant you.
And now finally to our guest, Vanessa Miller. Hello, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, Dave. I'm better than I deserve. How about you?
Doing okay. Can you just give us like a quick refresher on Isha and how you got involved with this situation for people who may have forgotten about the last episode or haven't, didn't get to see it?
Absolutely. This all started when a representative of Isha went to our local newspaper and talked about the wonderful yogic city that they were currently building on the mountain. And that got me very concerned for lots of reasons. Resources, roads, of course, things that are going on across our country, where we have individuals trying to create their own cities. We saw it happen in Oregon. We've recently seen it happen with another group in Texas. And so it brought a lot of concerns. So I began researching, and my research led to victims. I'm going to call them victims because they are calling me and reaching out to me. And so I started doing research, and my research led me to believe that Isha is a for-profit business owned by foreign individuals, which is fine. However, they need to operate under the tax code of business, not nonprofit. So that is what kept me digging in and turning to our elected officials and trying to figure out why our state board of equalization wasn't, why there didn't seem to be any due diligence. And so then I began talking to people, and it just snowballed from there, Dave. And a lot of the people in the community are very concerned about this. Actually, a lot of the people across the United States and India are concerned about Isha. So I've just, it's a problem. I would argue that nonprofits across the state of Tennessee are out of control. And that our Department of Revenue and State Board of Equalization and even our governor's office maybe needs to take a look at some of the laws on the books and why we're not enforcing them and why there is no oversight. And so that's what began it all, a newspaper article that they give, and fact checking. And here we are months later.
So have there been any investigations by the state or local government on anything we covered in the last show?
Yes, actually, I'd like to share some very good news. I've talked to many people who have been involved in Isha for 20 plus years, and some of them have left. And when Warren First, Kelly and I done our first podcast, Isha came out publicly and said that they would be filing defamation cases. And so I began doing a little research and found that over in Hamilton County, I found the docket number where they were trying to prove that a couple who had left the Isha Foundation was defaming Isha, and that they should not be. They wanted a gag order put on them.
What were they saying?
They were just telling the truth. They were sharing about sharing about the real estate, about how they had purchased it, but when they tried to leave the organization, they couldn't sell their real estate. They were talking about things that happened in the school there with their daughters, other family members, and alleged sexual assaults.
But before we get too far down the list, let's go back to the real estate just a second. So when they bought the real estate, it was in their name?
Yes.
And who was preventing them from selling it?
Isha has placed a lien against the property. Basically, Dave, if you look at it, to me, it kind of plays out as a power play. This couple has left them. The court actually said that the defamation case, if I may, I'll read this so that I don't misquote. The Hamilton County Court said that their defamation case was woefully undersupported. its attempt to rebut the defendant's well-supported arguments have failed to supply sufficient proof of defamation. So the defendants were able to prove that what they had shared publicly was, in fact, not defamation, but truth from their point of view. And so I feel like the lien and the argument about the property has to do with control. This couple was with Isha for 21 plus years, I think. I'm not sure. I don't have personal names on that. I do have the docket number, and you can read the case. But the defendants are currently in hiding out of fear for their life.
Wow. So how could they legally put a lien on it? What was the legal basis for the lien?
You know, Dave, I'm not sure about that. It has something to do, I think, with the contract between the volunteers of Isha and Isha itself. And I have not seen that contract, so I can't speak to that. I can only speak to what I've been able to find proof of. Okay. And it appears that the market value of land up there is about $15,000 an acre. But when an individual leaves the organization and Isha gets the land back, they don't pay anything for it.
Was that in a legal contract when they joined Isha?
Evidently, again, I have not seen that contract. The contracts I have seen, Dave, it seems a little like a Ponzi scheme to me. These people from India and California and Florida are making a down payment on a particular property that they will never own. They can build a home on it, but they will never own it. And so therein lies a problem. You know, you build a $500,000 house on a piece of property that you don't own. So who owns the home? It's all a problem when it comes to the real estate.
It seems that I would think that would still have to be registered at the county, at the county clerk. You know, okay, X so-and-so owns this property, I would think.
The lots are all deeded to the Isha Foundation.
Okay. You mentioned something about sexual abuse. You mentioned kids and sexual abuse, in fact.
I did. There have been multiple allegations that there's sexual improprieties at their schools in India and here in Warren County. Again, that is alleged, and I can't speak to the cases in India, but I have spoke to multiple victims myself, and more are coming forward and giving statements to Warren County. I do know that there is an active investigation with the TBI and that Jaggy was interviewed. I do not know and have not yet seen the report on that. I do understand that it is still an open investigation, though, and that there are more witnesses coming forward.
Okay, so open investigation involving sexual abuse or elder abuse or what?
It looks like right now the only alleged open cases are with sexual abuse of adult women, and it's my understanding that some minors as well.
Wow.
And at this point, really, those are the kinds of things that our local government can control there or can move forward with. Some of the things like the Ponzi schemes, the tax evasion, and, you know, are they really a 501c3? Those are going to have to come down from our state board of revenue, our Department of Equalization, and even our federal government.
So they've been there for 20 years, and I'm assuming there's been questions about them pretty much since they've been there, and there's been maybe red flags raised along the way. Has there been any investigation by the local authorities?
There have been, yes. And I think our local authorities would be happy to help if they could ever get a foothold onto something. none of us want the law just to be able to come in and raid our establishment.
Right, right.
But yes, there have been investigations by the sheriff's department. There have been suicides that have been investigated, autopsies that have been performed on deceased individuals that have had to be removed. There have been investigations on fires that have magically burned land that they needed cleared. There have been, it's my understanding that even ICE has been in the area.
Did they make any arrests?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of, but
do we know if this guy is a citizen?
No, he is not. He does hold a Tennessee driver's license.
Okay, but he's still a citizen of India.
Yes, he is a citizen of India.
I think we got a little video, don't we? Don't we have a little video of Jaggi?
Yes, I'd love to share that. I would actually like to debunk his video.
Okay. We'll go ahead and play that here in a second. Here we go.
Osho, his teachings were centered around, what many would suggest a little bit of what the same you preach. And ultimately, when people look back, Osho was called a cult.
Well, if it worked for millions of people, you call it whatever the hell you want. If it's working for millions of people, what's your problem?
Many thought they were brainwashed.
I think a lot of people's brains need washing. There was somebody in Tamil Nadu who was called as Sadhguru Sri Brahma. People who were associated with him, they came searching for me, saying Sadhguru has come.
So they saw you as a reincarnation of Sadhguru.
Wow. It's hard to believe that something like that could be taking root in Tennessee. But now, are most of the people involved with this from India? Are there locals or just people from around the country?
Dave, they are mostly Indians. And I really feel like that's one reason that they've been here for 20 years. I think that in the beginning, we were coming on that time in our history where everything offended somebody. So locals didn't want to be viewed as racist. So everybody kind of turned their head. And I think that most of the victims have been of the Indian culture. And I personally think that that's racism, that we locally would turn our heads because we happen not to be the victims or the type of person that they're trying to recruit. So a lot of the followers do come from California and Florida, where they've had strongholds for years, but most of them are from the Indian culture.
Okay, but now even the ones that come from California, I mean, how many are most of them non-citizens, or do you have any way of knowing?
I have no way of knowing that.
Okay.
I do know they have a lot of registered voters, so I hope that they are citizens.
They probably got their own little precinct there, I bet. You want to talk about you said you wanted to debunk the video.
I did, and I would like to encourage all of your listeners and viewers to watch the whole video. He loves to talk about Tennessee throughout the video and also about the locals. Some of the points that I would like to make is that he addressed local media and how we have been talking about him and his organization. And I just want to clarify that he mentioned that he would tell us if he was a cult, if we would give him the definition. Well, we've given him the definition multiple times. I feel pretty confident that he knows it. But if he's watching, I'll be happy to sit down with you and go over that definition again. He also mentions in the beginning of the video that the people that came to him and thought that he was reincarnated wanted him to start up doing this again. And he himself says, I didn't want to start that old business again. And to me, that says he knows it's a business. He knows that he's selling a service, whether it's a self-help service or whatever. He knows it's a business. And he also mentioned something that I just really shocked me, that we think he's Muslim here in Warren County. And I don't think there's any confusion about that at all. I don't think he's Muslim. I did think that he was Hindu until I done some research about Hinduism. But I do want to clarify to Isha, to Mr. Vastavesh, nobody in local media that I have been involved with, nor myself, think that you are a Muslim.
So what is he besides strange?
I'm not sure. Dave, since our last episode, I have watched so many YouTube videos of him that I had to step back. I have seen a video where he claims that he himself is Jesus. I have seen videos where he says that Jesus is a man. In the YouTube video that you all shared, he says that he's not a guru, he's just Jaggy. But if you follow their website, he defines himself as the guru. So it's all very confusing. I think that he is using nonprofit status in the United States to build an empire. I think he's a brilliant businessman. He certainly knows how to work around tax code. Something else that he mentions in the video is that he's trying to be a part of the community and that he doesn't want to build his own city. However, they are in the process of building their own data center, their own business offices. Their golf course is almost finished. I found out from the Tennessee Department of Environmental Control, I think that's right, TDEC,
Yep.
That they obtained their permits for mining on their property.
What kind of mining?
Mineral, it's a, oh my goodness, I don't
Rock
have it
quarry?
clarified.
You said something about a quarry
Yes,
before.
it's for a rock quarry, yes.
Okay. And why would he need that?
Well, I'm not sure unless he's trying to mine and sell rock, or unless he's trying to drill for water. There is not enough water up there to support the community that he says he is building.
How many people are up there now? And what do you know what the plan is for in terms of numbers?
I wish I knew how many were up there. At a county commission meeting, he told us there were 200 up there, or his representatives. On his YouTube video that you shared the link to, he's told us that there are 2,000 up there. In the original newspaper article that got me all riled up, he was bringing 40,000 individuals.
Good Lord.
So the numbers are all over the place, which again, to me, makes me feel like it's shady.
Right.
Let's just talk real numbers. So his numbers never match from meeting to meeting. Also in the video, he talks about Warren County being a county of 10 to 15,000. Well, we're a county of 40,000. So, is he even familiar with the demographics of where he is? On another note, in the video, he offers to let the churches come and build a church next to his ashram. And maybe he thought that he was welcoming the community by making that statement, but I think he offended many Christians, and I don't think he understands or respects that a Christian probably wouldn't put their church next to an ashram on what he calls sacred ground.
Right.
So he also talks about how 70% of the 22,000 acres he owns is used for conservation, and that's simply not true. He says that only 30% of it is developed, and I don't know the numbers, but I would say that 18-hole golf course takes up 30% of it.
Now, is he only in Warren County, or does this organization own property in other counties?
Davey owns property in other counties. He actually spans 3 counties, which creates a jurisdictional nightmare. You're in one county when you pass through the gate. You go back about 500 feet. You're in the 500 feet is probably not factual. You go back in a little bit and you cross into the Van Buren County line. If you're hiking on the property, you can actually even cross over into Sequatchie County. So that seems to have been done by design.
Yeah, I don't think that was accidental. Have the other counties, shown any concern about this community?
They have, and I'm actually very excited about that. I did recently find out that apparently they had sold lots that were supposed to be situated on a private lake. Well, there's no lake up there. So I guess he was going to build a retaining pond, and Van Buren County denied him the permit. So he cannot build his retaining pond there. And that's something else, Dave, that he has a history of, is not getting the proper permitting. Recently, India just made a ruling from back in 2011, a case that has been going on. And his facility in India, when he first started this, he went out and started building his buildings on an elephant sanctuary without the proper permits. So you can imagine how this is processed in India. And I do not understand their legal system at all. But they recently made a ruling, and I have it. And ISHA filed permits asking that they be proactively granted for the buildings they built without permits. And the India government denied it. So that we still don't know what will happen with his facility there.
Right.
But even India is recognized that he broke the rules to build it.
Is he wanted for anything in India that you know of?
Not that I know of. He likes to talk about, though, how he's never had any charges, which is not true. He was charged in India with the murder of his wife. He was not found guilty, but her parents maintain that it was murder. But again, the courts did not find enough evidence to prosecute him.
Right.
And there have been other charges. The Indian government raided the school in Isha because there were reports of sexual abuse on the children.
Wow.
And the language barrier has kept me from pursuing those legal documents. But there's lots of things surrounding him that appear to be no good.
So here in Tennessee, what other real estate concerns, and you mentioned elder abuse, and or if you have anything else on the sexual abuse?
The real estate, Dave, is really set up like a Ponzi scheme. These people pay money for something they may or may not get, or for these condominiums that are like dormitories.
Right.
And, you can't deed the property to any of your heirs without ISHA approval. They have to be members. Just like these lots where he's been denied the permit, he sold properties on a lake that doesn't exist.
Well, that's a fraud. That's fraud right there. I mean, has nobody charged him for that yet?
Well, he has not been charged in the court. And so many of these people that are leaving, there have been 5 families that I know of that have left this year. And their homes are sitting up there vacant because they are terrified of what's going to happen when they try to get out of ISHA and get back any of their financial contributions.
Right. Wow.
So I think therein lies part of the problem, Dave. And these people are afraid to fight him. And that's why I'm hoping that this ruling on this defamation case will encourage other volunteers to come out and talk. And I hope that locals in Van Buren County and Warren County will put pressure on our Department of Revenue to give us some checks and balances on this organization. It's just out of control. And, if he weren't a nonprofit, if he would just give up his nonprofit status and get a business license and pay his taxes like the rest of us, I could live with that.
No,
But he's abusing our government. And then the victims is a whole nother story.
right. But you mentioned something about elder abuse. Have we got
I
anything
did.
firm on that?
There has been an individual who has filed a report looking for her husband. He came for a weekend at Isha, and I don't feel completely comfortable sharing the complete story, but he seems to have disappeared to the facility. Quite a bit of funds have been removed from their accounts.
Wow.
And he was an individual, I think, that was very much into yoga and meditation. And he just went there to try to make himself better, and lost contact with his family. They weren't allowed to speak with him. And he's kind of disappeared. It is my understanding that they have filed reports in other states where he is actually from. And so we'll see what goes forward with that. Today, there was another individual, a married woman of 19 years who has her PhD. She has been the rock of her family for years. She's always been into mediation. She went through some mental challenges and decided to go do a month at Isha and to learn more about inner engineering and possibly, make herself better. She came home and she had lost weight. She suffered a mental breakdown and had to be hospitalized.
Wow.
She now seems to have some sort of mental detachment where she thinks that she answers to the guru. And it's just been one story like that after the other, Dave. It's really difficult for me to understand hypnosis and mind control.
Right.
As a Christian, I come from a different background. And I know that even within Hinduism, hypnosis and often that level of meditation where you, I guess, reach another plateau. I guess these people really do. It's almost as if they're drugged. Talked to another businessman who was just looking for something different. He went up, was going to spend a month there, done a video call with the family. They were very concerned because he was emaciated. And
Wow.
I think this gentleman was able to leave. But it's story after story that I hear like that, Dave. And it's often older widowed Indian women or wealthy Indian women, or it's elderly people who seem to have access to lots of money. Another victim that it's very surprising to me that she's a victim, author Cheryl Simone out of Atlanta, Georgia, very intelligent lady, very outgoing. Years ago, when Jaggy first came to the United States, she met him. She was interested in meditation, and she traveled around the United States with him and wrote a book called Midnight with the Mystic. Cheryl recently come out and publicly apologized for writing that book and what she shared, and apologized to any potential victims that might have followed Isha based on her book.
Wow.
And so to me, that was pretty powerful, that an author that spent that much time with him would come out and say, pretty much, hey, this is hogwash. I'm sorry.
Do you know if he owns other or controls other communities across the country, or is this the main one?
I think this is the main one where he owns real estate. He does have facilities in California as well, and owns real estate there. And he has a lot of volunteers out of Florida, but to my knowledge, he doesn't own any real estate there. And I don't imagine DeSantis is too Isha friendly.
Let's hope not.
I like to think of them as the free state down there. But he really does have a stronghold of that property here in Tennessee. And it's just frightening. It's frightening because I don't think he cares what the locals want. He doesn't want us necessarily to, when you move to Tennessee, I would think you move here because you like the way we do things.
Right.
And so I don't want to be the next Minneapolis.
No.
And Nashville's already turning into LA.
Yeah.
So I don't want McMinnville to be the next one. And, the only in the United States history, the only other organization that has been similar to this is the one in Oregon. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but, we ended up having one of the largest, hang on just a second. Let me flip over here to my notes on this one. The group in Oregon was overlooked, and it ended up being one of the largest bioterrorism attacks in the United States. And that actually happened in Antelope, Oregon. And it was when one of Jaggie's competing gurus went in and took over that town. And, the people tried to turn their head. And the next thing you know, this cult.
When was this? When did this happen?
Dave, I can't tell you off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's fine. Well, so I'm just curious, what do most of the locals think about this group? And are they concerned? Most of the locals, whether they're in the local government or just average citizen?
Yes, they're concerned. They're very concerned. I have talked to veterans who are very concerned from a veterans group perspective, and they would like to see a more open rapport with them and understand why they're really here and if they really do want to be a part of our community. And I have talked to various people in the community who are concerned about the political influence this could have, as far as if they do bring in 40,000 people to live in their yogic city. We are a county of 40,000 people.
Right.
And we don't want to be outvoted by people who don't share the same values that we do.
Right.
And, in his video, he refers to how much we like our sweet tea and biscuits. And we do like our sweet tea and biscuits.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that had to do with anything, but that's part of our culture. And so just that he doesn't want to show the community any respect or reciprocation, but he wants it from us.
Right.
And so that's troublesome.
You mentioned the nonprofit laws and that he bills this organization as a nonprofit. So what specifically is he violating in terms of nonprofit? And you say that, is that based on what you've been able to find from his 990s or other documents?
Yes, absolutely. When you look at his tax returns and his 990s, his tax nonprofit status is actually for education and soil conservation.
Education and soil conservation.
Yes.
So what does he do for soil conservation?
You tell me. He builds 18-hole golf courses and he clears off our mountain. I would love to know. I really would, Dave. What I have been able to find with his soil conservation program is he has sent some trees to India, and then he has sold them to other nonprofit groups to plant. So that's the only proof that I found of any soil conservation. And he does sell these cute little stickers up at the Isha Foundation that say "Save the Soil." So maybe marketing.
Is he involved anyway with any state programs? I mean, is he, I know the state has different programs for, like Green Belt and so on and so forth, but is he involved that you know of with any state agency?
No. He does mention in the video, though, that he met with Governor Bill Lee and that he's looking forward to Tennessee promoting Isha as one of the biggest tourist attractions that we offer.
Really?
And I don't know about you, Dave, but that's not what I want my politicians endorsing.
No. And it wouldn't shock me about Bill Lee, but I'm not going to, I'm unless I'd have to have a little more proof of that, even for Bill Lee, as bad as he is. But that's what Joggy said.
Yes, and he actually says that in that video.
Now, that video that you keep referencing, it's longer than a little clip that's on, you can get that from your website?
You can, and it's on YouTube, and you can also get it at Warren First.
Okay.
And it's 7 minutes, so it's not very long.
Okay.
But he puts a lot of information in there. And Dave, as far as his education goes, he does offer education programs called inner engineering.
Which is what?
But it is to help you find yourself. And it's kind of like a self-help course. For example, Tony Robbins sells self-help courses that you can do online. And Tony Robbins is a for-profit business.
Right.
So the education that he provides is a paid-for service for adults. And it's about reaching those different levels of meditation.
So these nonprofits, even though you're saying it's a for-profit rather than a nonprofit, don't they have some level of, I'm just kind of surprised that the state doesn't, have some requirement that they meet some minimum standard that they are actually doing what they say they're doing.
Dave, those things are in place. And the State Board of Equalization, who oversees that, has actually been to made a couple of rulings, and Warren County actually had to sue the State Board of Equalization over one of their rulings. And I do want to clarify something here, because I am a conservative and I do not believe in big government. I certainly don't believe in more rules or more laws. But what I do believe in is oversight on the laws and regulations that are in place.
Right.
And our State Board of Equalization and our Tennessee Secretary of State have failed Warren County and Van Buren County, as far as I'm concerned. I would love for them to show me they haven't.
On this specific issue, on this property.
On this specific issue on Isha. I have been shocked at how they've come up here and looked at this real estate and have said, yes, this room for yoga or these dorm rooms where you charge people $1,200 to come spend the night are part of your nonprofit. It is so clearly a for-profit business to me. And so I don't understand how they have been allowed to keep going. And just since I was on your show last time, they continue to form LLCs. And I keep seeing Isha Foundation move money from, I don't know, let's say Isha Foundation to this LLC. And then this person will buy this property at, let's say, $60,000 a half acre. But then Jaggy will offer to buy it from someone for $15,000.
Wow.
So it kind of, again, kind of back to that whole Ponzi scheme thing.
Something shady, definitely something shady.
Yes.
So what, in your opinion, needs to happen?
In my opinion, we need a little Doge up here in Warren County in more ways than one. We need the State Board of Equalization and the Tennessee Department of Revenue to do a full forensic audit of Isha. And we need them to take a step back and look at where those original statuses originated. Mm-hmm. Because, Dave, I don't believe that they ever met the criteria for the nonprofit statuses they were granted.
Okay. great.
And I'm not trying to accuse anybody or anything of that. I just think maybe it was some slick paperwork or something, or that ISHA presented it in a way. I mean, we all know there are loopholes.
Right. Well, in Tennessee has these laws that, and not just on this topic, but Tennessee they have laws that sound good on paper, but then when you get to looking at them, they don't really have any teeth, or they don't really have anybody that is designated to enforce it. You know what I'm saying? I've seen that I've seen the legislature do that on other topics. But you said this belongs to the Board of Equalization and who at the state level?
The Tennessee Department of Revenue and the Secretary of State.
Okay. So
our Secretary of State oversees those LLCs and those nonprofits. The Department of Revenue collects the taxes, and the Board of Equalization, again, that wording on all that stuff, but the best I can tell, it is their job to make sure nonprofits are paying their equal fair share of taxes.
Well, maybe the Secretary of State and Joggy could sit down and have a beer and figure out what's what with this issue. Anyway, so
I'm afraid that's what's been happening.
Yeah, that could be the problem. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. Thanks for what you do. And you say Warren First is the
yes,
and that's where they can keep updated. The community can keep, or people from across the state that might be interested. That's where they can keep updated on this.
Absolutely. Warren First with Kelly Walker, all local all the time. And except for when I come on, it's usually focusing on all the positive stuff.
Okay. Are you the designated downer?
Well, I just feel like this is important for our community, and I love Warren County. And there are other groups moving here, and it's not about groups, it's not about racism, but it's about protecting the values and the things that are important to Warren County Tennesseans.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks again. We'll definitely have you back on, and I hope you guys get some action out there, get some response from the state, and maybe some of the local authorities will have some success in getting some answers.
I appreciate you, Dave, and I appreciate all you do. You bring a lot to light for the state.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate what Kelly does as well. You guys have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. I want to thank the audience for taking the time to watch our program tonight. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, so please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, as well as the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. Please help us to reach our milestone of 1,000 subscribers by the end of February. I believe we can do it. If you're enjoying our program, please share it with your friends.